Greetings, I'm Professor Hobo, and welcome to another HOBOTECH News product review. I recently reviewed the Ecoflow Delta 2 and labeled it as one of the best bang for the buck 1800 watt power stations of 2023. The biggest gripe about the Delta 2 is its puny little 1 kilowatt hour battery. What if you need more power but you don't want to haul around that massive 100-pound Delta Pro? The answer is going to be the new 2400 watt Ecoflow Delta 2 Max. It's basically a Delta 2 on roids. But is it any good? Let's find out. As for what's inside the Delta Max, it sports a 2048 watt hour lithium iron phosphate battery rated at 3000 cycles to 80% capacity. As for size and weight, it's 20 by 10 by 12 inches and weighs in around 50 pounds. However, on my scale, it was about 52.5 pounds. As for the design of the display, it's the typical Ecoflow, what you expect from pretty much their entire product line. It is a high quality color LCD. It shows input and output watts, time to charge and discharge, and battery percent with icon. As for the inverter, it's typical for Ecoflow. They always put them on the back, it seems. This sports a 2400 watt pure sine inverter with 6, count them, 20 amp outlets. As for ways to charge, there are the typical 3. First, of course, is with the included AC wall outlet cord. Of course, all modern solar generators, at least all the good ones, have built-in chargers, so no more charging bricks, hooray. No more of that garbage. Now, being typical Ecoflow, this does charge lightning fast from AC wall power. It does charge at 1800 watts, although I've only really seen it do 1650 to 1700 in real life circumstances. Even at that speed, it still charges from 0 to 80% in only 43 minutes. Pretty darn fast. As for the second way to charge, it is through 1000 watts of dual MPPT controllers on the back using XT60 connectors. You see there's actually 2 inputs here that are XT60. They support from 11 to 60 volts of solar panels each. So you can put a couple of pairs on one, a couple of pairs on the other. And under perfect ideal solar conditions, you can charge 0 to 80% in about 2 hours. Finally, you can charge, of course, from 12 or 24 volt car with the included adapter. It's cigarette lighter socket to XT60. Not a maximum of 100 watts at 12 volts. It's going to take pretty much 20 hours to charge this thing up from dead. However, if you're at a 24 volt vehicle or you got a 24 volt source, you can cut that time in half. Now, as for 12 volt outputs, it does offer the standard 12 volt 10 amp cigarette lighter socket output regulated at 12.6 volts. They also offer a pair of 5521 barrel plug outputs rated at 3 amps each. Those are also regulated. Back to the front. Just like in that Metallica song, we're going to see the USB outputs are all on the front panel. The Max does offer a pair of standard USB outputs, a pair of USB quick charges, and a pair of USB-C 100 watt power delivery outputs. Note this product does not support charging through USB. Now, as for other features, just like all other current Ecoflow products, it does support their Wi-Fi and Bluetooth app for remote access anywhere on planet Earth as long as you have internet access. This app is optional. It is not required to use the product. So if you're one of those people that hate Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, turn it off. Now, you've probably been wondering, what the heck is this other thing behind me? One of the other features of the Delta 2 Max, it does support battery expandability up to 6 kilowatt hours through dual external battery ports, which are right here on this side. There's 2 battery ports, which lets you hook up to 2 of these external batteries. You can actually hook up their generator to this as well. It is compatible with all the other Ecoflow products that do have this battery port. Now, each one of these Delta 2 Max Smart batteries are 2 kilowatts each, and like I said, you can hook 2 up for 6 kilowatts. As with all the other new Ecoflow products on the market, this also does sport a 5-year manufacturer's warranty. And of course, I took the Delta 2 Max here to my secret laboratory where I performed all kinds of crazy experiments on it, including, yes, of course, a double-fisted bang, bang battery capacity test. As for the results of the DC battery capacity test, it scored 1,712 watt hours out of 2048 for a very good 84%. As for the AC battery capacity test, it scored even better, 1,830 watt hours out of 2048 for a very respectable 89%. These numbers are at or slightly above the average for all the top brands in the industry right now. Now this next test we're going to do is one of the new ones called phantom load or parasitic drain test. This is where we test how much power it wastes just by basically being turned on in the different modes. Any eco or power saving features are disabled. Timeout settings, if available, are set to maximum. All tests are run for at least 4 hours to lower the margin of error. Since the last time I did this, I got a little bit of flack because it added about 5 minutes to the length of the video. I'm just going to show you the result. And here are the results of the idle consumption test. The AC idle consumption was 90 watt hours over a 4-hour period, or 3% of the battery, for 540 watt hours over a 24-hour period. That means just leaving the AC inverter on alone and nothing else will use 540 watt hours out of a 24-hour period. As for DC idle consumption, it was significantly less. We're able to record 73 watt hours over a 12-hour period of just leaving the DC circuitry on. That consumed 2% of the battery, or 146 watt hours over 24 hours. So if you're running, say, a DC 12-volt refrigerator, you can expect that just having the circuitry on over a 24-hour period will cost you 146 watt hours of the battery. Now I'm always being asked, how long is my whatever going to run on one of these? So since every appliance is different, every product is different, I'm going to give you a generic guesstimate chart right here on the screen. It'll give you approximately how long common appliances will run on this unit. Pure sine wave check under load. We're under full load. You can see we have a perfect sine wave at 120 volts, 60 hertz. Inverter capacity test. This is where we determine how much can we pull out of the 2400 watt pure sine inverter. Okay, there we are at 2400 watts, 2600 watts, 2800 watts, 3000. So it seems like we can pull 3000 watts for a few seconds. This next test is the sustained cooling or heat soak test, where we run it at its inverter capacity or a little bit higher for at least 5 minutes to determine, does it do anything crazy? Does it start making crazy noises, yelling, screaming, smoking, doing drugs, throwing bricks through its neighbor's windows? It's an Ecoflow. I don't expect any of that to happen, but we have to test it anyway. So let's go ahead and start this test at 2500 watts and see, can it do 5 minutes? If not, we'll back it down to 2400 watts. See if it'll do that for 5 minutes. Now we'll find out, will it run 2500 watts for 5 minutes? All right, we're back. We made it 1 minute at 2500 watts, so let's go ahead and reduce it to 2400 and try again. All right, we're coming up on 5 minutes at 2500 watts, and it passed with flying colors, no funky smells, sounds, shapes, or colors. While we're waiting for it to cool down, let's see how loud these inverter fans are in max. It's actually very quiet, but let's see how quiet from a meter away. Looks like 48, 49 decibels from about a meter away, and that's on max fans. That is very quiet. You know, these audio tests for the Ecoflows are just getting better and better. These used to be one of the loudest power stations you can buy, and now they've actually figured out the noise in these things. They're using bigger, slower running fans, bigger heat sinks, and they realize people don't want to hear loud screaming fans that sound like hair dryers going off for hours on end. So they have really tamed down the amount of noise coming out of these little solar generators. This next test is the max charge rate test, where we determine how fast can we charge this thing via 12-volt solar or any other method like AC wall power. So let's start with AC wall power charging first on the maximum setting in the app. Now, inside the app for pretty much all modern Ecoflows, you can determine how much charging power goes into your product. For the Delta 2 Max, the slider goes from 200 watts all the way up to 1800 watts. That means the maximum rate we should be able to charge is 1800 watts. So let's go ahead and test that. All right, it looks like we're able to do 1676 watts. Now I did run this battery a little bit. It is a little bit warm, so maybe it's slowing it down slightly. Or maybe that's just the loss from the power conversion. Let's go ahead and try solar. So I have two chargers right here. I have this big 3000 watt variable voltage charger, and then I have this smaller 3000 watt 48 volt fixed volt charger. So this can do like almost 40 amps or something to that nature, and this one can do 20 amps. So I have this one set at 60 volts and this one's fixed at 48 volts. Because this sports two MPPT controllers on the back, there's two XT60 inputs labeled PV1 and PV2. Now what I found kind of odd about the Delta 2 Max is that those are limited to 500 watts each. So instead of having just like 1,000 watt or 2,000 watts, they limit you to two 500 watt inputs. Now that's not so bad, but you realize this has a over 2,000 watt hour battery and you're limited to 1,000 watts of solar, and you have to put them in a certain configuration to max out the 1,000 watts of solar. It's going to take you about 3 hours to charge this one dead to full under the perfect ideal conditions, which we have here in the lab. First of all, let's start charging from 12 volts because a lot of people want to charge these things from a running vehicle, and at 12.6 volts it rounds up to 13 volts. We'll see what kind of amps it pulls. Now that should limit itself to around 8 because that's the way Ecoflow works. They don't want you to blow your breakers in your cars, so they limit you to about 8 amps, or a total of 100 watts. Still limiting it to 8 amps, which I find interesting, 173 watts. So let's take it up a little higher. There's going to be some point here where it's going to allow more than 8 amps, because we are using XT60 connections. It's still limiting itself to 8 amps. All right, well, let's take it up to 2 solar panels in series, which is going to be somewhere in the 40 volt range. So we'll just take it up to 40 volts. Now at 40 volts, it's still limiting it to 8 amps. So here we are charging at 300 watts. I find that kind of odd, but okay. We'll roll with it here. So let's just crank this up to its 60 volt maximum because the limit on the inputs are 11 to 60 volts each. So you got 2 of those. That's why I got 2 chargers. All right, we're at 473 watts. I'm going to go ahead and turn the other one on. The other one is 48 volts at 37 amps, I believe. It's close to 40 amps that it can output. So we should see the 2 combined getting close to 1,000 watts. As you can see here, we're climbing up. We're at 875 and it kind of peters out there. I'm going to turn off the variable voltage one and just allow the other one to charge. Now, just a few minutes ago, this was definitely doing 500 watts. So I don't know why it's not doing it now. All right, we're going to roll with what is repeatable on camera because that's how experiments work. Just because I saw it do 500 watts once and I can't get it to repeat 500 watts, we're going to go with what it says in this experiment. So I'm going to go ahead and try turning up the voltage above 60 volts and see if we can crack 500 watts. So 60 volts, we're going to go ahead and let this max out on the amps, which it does back off to 8. Now it says 470 watts down here. So let's just go ahead and increase the voltage. Just try 65. Now it's liking that. It's capping us at 500 watts now. I'm just curious to see how high we can go. Oh, I guess that's it. It looks like if you go above 66, it cuts you off. So there is not a lot of leeway voltage-wise, but you can take it up to 65 volts. That'd be 65 volts VOC for combined solar panels. Okay, there we are at 500 watts. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the other power supply. Well, there we are. We at least passed the 900 watt threshold, but I can't seem to get it to go any more than 900 watts with the 2 chargers combined. So you got 2 different voltages, 2 different amperages going into 2 different controllers combined to give us 900 watts. Now it does say that it will charge this from 40% to full in about an hour. That sounds about right. Now what about simultaneous charging? Can you charge from solar and AC power from the wall at the same time? Well, I have both simulated solars here, pumping in 900 watts of fake solar. Let's go ahead and plug it into the wall and see if we get more power. Okay, I just plugged it into the wall. Let's watch the meter and see what happens. Looks like we're approaching 2,400 watts of charging combined between the wall and solar. It looks like it's about slowing down here, and that's going to be its limit. So it looks like we're leveling out at 2464, so we're not quite doing 2,500 watts of charging, but at 46%, it says we only have 52 minutes to top this up, so that's pretty impressive. Now to figure out what's going on here, we actually have solar coming in full force on both of these. You can see it still says 8 amps at 64 volts, and this is still outputting 48 volts at about 10 or 11 amps. So these 2 solar combined, along with the AC power coming in, is giving us a combined total of 2,500 watts. Charge this thing up pretty much from 0 to full in about an hour, which is really impressive. And as for the charging noise, it's the same 48, 49 decibels as the discharging noise. The fans are running exactly the same as before. Now the Delta 2 Max does have 2 100 watt power delivery outputs. We're going to make sure that they can both output 100 watts each simultaneously. So I have two 5-amp power cords plugged into two power banks. Each can take 100 watts USB. And you can see we're outputting 200 watts. So there you have it, 200 watts going out and 100 watts going into each of these power bin units. As with all Ecoflow products, the output voltage is 12.6 volts from the regulated 12 volt system on this. So you can see 12.6 volts. Let's go ahead and crank it up and see, can it handle 10 amps? Yep, no problem handling 10 amps at 12.2 volts. So it's a very stable 12 volt circuit. Now, what about pass-through charging? Now, it's 2023. I wouldn't even bother reviewing a power station if it didn't have some form of pass-through charging. This absolutely does have both AC and DC pass-through charging. Now, the AC pass-through is really a UPS mode. It just allows power from the wall to pass through to whatever appliance, in this case, a laptop. I am charging right now from solar at 8 amps, you can see. So I am bringing solar power in and running my laptop at the same time. So you can see about 500 watts coming in and 20 watts going out. So yeah, it of course supports pass-through charging. Now, Ecoflow calls their UPS mode EPS for emergency power supply. It's a meaningless term that they made up so that they don't have to, basically go to the standards of a uninterruptible power supply. But most of Ecoflow's current modern day products do in fact switch fast enough to keep a computer going. Now, for those of you that haven't seen us test 50 times already, I have a laptop here, a very old one with no battery in it, and it's basically just running off of this power supply. See, it's got a little green light on the power supply there. And I currently have the Ecoflow plugged into the wall through this switch. So when I turn the switch off, it's like simulating a blackout situation. So pretend that you're in a thunderstorm, you're on your computer working. Now, this can be a tower PC. I use a computer because it's the most sensitive thing to switching over. You can put coffee pots and stereo systems and stuff on a power supply that switches slowly and they'll still be fine. Computers will shut off if they don't switch fast enough. So right now I'm plugged into the mains. I got power coming in. You can see we're charging the battery at 1600 watts. We're at 58% capacity. I always do this test while the battery's charging. Okay, as soon as I hit this switch, it's going to turn off the power to the Ecoflow, simulating a blackout. Place your bets. Is the laptop gonna stay on or not? So let's try it. Ready? 3, 2, 1. And there you have it. The laptop is still on. That's no surprise. Anyway, we're flipping it back on. It goes back to charging, no problem. You see my laptop is pulling 20 watts. It's unfazed whatsoever about the switching back and forth. Remember, there is no battery in this. I'll turn it off again just to show you. No problem. So I can turn it on and off all day long, and it's not affecting the laptop whatsoever. So this is a big thumbs up pass for the UPS test. Musician's favorite, amp interference test. This is where we take this PV keyboard amp, plug it into the Ecoflow inverter, see if it makes any weird buzzy noises. That'll let you know, can you use it for your band or a PA system or ham radio use? So all I gotta do is flip the switch. It takes the power from the inverter, puts it into the PV. We're gonna find out, is it clean or is it dirty? Now, being a high-end Ecoflow product, if it fails this test, it's gonna go in the dumpster. So hopefully it doesn't fail the test. Let's find out. Place your bets. 3, 2, 1. And like we would expect, it's clean as a whistle. You can barely hear the hiss at all. So that is a very clean inverter. Virtually every product that Ecoflow has released in the past 2 years uses their fantastic app. Now, this app is very well designed. It puts all your Ecoflow products on one screen. I have like 8 different products in this app, and I deleted the app and reinstalled it, logged into my account, and all my products came back up again. This allows you to control all your Ecoflow products remotely from anywhere in the world as long as you have internet access to your devices. So I'm going to show it to you very quickly. I've went over this app at least a half dozen times in the past 18 months. I'll show it for you guys again who have not seen it yet. Okay, here's the main screen of the app. You can see it gives you your available time on the battery. You can turn on and off the inverter, 12 volt, and everything else. This first tab is your input screen. This second tab is your output screen. And then all you have to do to get into the settings is hit that gear icon. It allows you to turn on and off the beeping. Now, if you go into energy management, it allows you to set the minimum and maximum you could charge or discharge your battery to. Very convenient if you want to extend the life of your battery. Here you can set your AC charging speed from 200 to 1800 watts, change your car input. If you have a smart generator, you can tell it when to kick on and off. This is where you turn on and off X-Boost. And this also allows you to turn on or off or adjust the settings for all the timeouts on the unit. So what do I think about the Delta 2 Max? I think the Delta 2 Max is one of those Goldilocks zone products. It's not too big, it's not too small, it's just right. It can handle both small and large jobs no problem. It is expandable to that whopping 6 kilowatts, and that's enough power to actually run my secret lab here for a full day, including air conditioning. Oh, and guess what? Since it has 2 battery ports on the side, you can run an external battery and that new Ecoflow Wave 2 heat pump, air conditioner heater thing for super efficient heating and cooling using DC power instead of AC power. It's always best to run DC to DC than it is to plug it into the AC inverter, because that wastes upwards of 20% power depending on what you're running. So the link for that review of the Wave 2, fantastic heat pump. And no joke, I like it so much, I still have it hooked up in the lab. See, I'm not even gonna cut this, I'm gonna show you. There it is right there with the Delta 2, because I'm doing a little update video on that. There it is, it's still hooked up to my window, I'm still using it, and it is summer here. We've been hitting mid-90 temperatures up here in the Arizona mountains. And yeah, I'm using that more than I'm using this. Now this is the air conditioner I've been running in here the last few years. It's all right, it's not the most efficient. The Wave 2 is actually better. And it's also quieter. I can run it while I'm filming, which I obviously can't run that while I'm filming. It would just blow up my microphone. So yes, this has the outputs on the side, so you can actually hook one battery in and hook that air conditioner heater into the other one for some really extended run times. You could run easily a day or two using this product. So that takes me to my gripes. My gripes for the Max are few, but since they are competing with BLUETTI, they should really be offering a wireless charging pad on top. I also think they could have done better on the solar inputs. A pair of 500 watt inputs in 2023 isn't really that impressive. I also didn't like how I had to max the voltage out over 60 volts in order to reach that 500 watts. In the real world, you're likely never to attain 1,000 watts unless you hit that magic 60 volts. That's really tough to do with solar panels. Even Ecoflow recommends you run a pair or 800 watts of their 400 watt panels, or for their 220 watt panels for 880 watts to charge this. That doesn't go anywhere near what it's supposed to be able to do. Expect to peak around 600 to 800 watts in the really real world.
This is the really real world. There ain't no coming back.
And that's going to drop your charging times down to about 3 to 4 hours under the best conditions. Now my last gripe isn't about the Max at all, but it's about this smart battery. Typical Ecoflow still hasn't gotten the hint that folks want more features, like add some USB ports, add a 12 volt socket. Most importantly, you cannot charge this battery independently of this main unit. You have to hook it into this in order to charge it. There's no solar charging, there's no plugging it in anywhere, there's no inputs on it except for that battery port. So you got to use their cable to charge this battery. That's pretty inconvenient. When you can have this in a different location, throw a couple solar panels on it, and that's what BLUETTI allows you to do. Ecoflow doesn't allow that for any of their external batteries across their entire line, and I still don't understand why they're not doing that. If I'm being honest here, this is Ecoflow's biggest setback in the market. They make these really awesome power stations, but then they totally space cadet out on adding practical features to their external add-on batteries. Ecoflow, I hope you are listening. That brings us to everyone's favorite part of the video, product price. The Max is offered at the retail price of $18.99, which is 79 cents per watt or 93 cents per watt hour. So of course I do have a discount code that will drop a few bucks off this product, so you're not going to really actually pay their full retail anyway. As for competition, the top competitor for this product is going to be the BLUETTI AC200 Max, which offers a slightly smaller 2200 watt inverter with the same battery capacity that's also expandable but up to 8 kilowatts. It does charge overall slower from AC power, but does offer 900 watts of solar input that's actually easier to attain in the real world. It's also a few $100 cheaper, but it's a 2-year-old design, so newer, a little more expensive, older, a little cheaper is usually the way it goes. However, it is difficult to recommend the AC200 Max over the Delta 2 simply because the BLUETTI design is really starting to show its age and actually doesn't even offer a UPS feature, which this does. As for recommended solar, I recommend just sticking with the Ecoflow panels, assuming you don't already have solar panels, because they're really good and they're fully compatible with their entire product line. Now, if you want to spare no expense, get that high output 220 watt bifacial panel from Ecoflow. I got a couple of those and they are really fantastic. Otherwise, save a few bucks, go for the cheaper 160 watt panels. Be sure to get at least 2 if you want to charge within 1 day. Now, if you want something that's cheaper and more permanent than portable panels, I recommend the Bourgeois V180 or 200 watt glass panel or the Renogy 320 watt glass panels, which can be found on hobotech.tv/Amazon under Solar Kits. So if you're interested in the Delta 2 Max, the link and discount code is going to be in the description of this video below. I'm also going to put a link here at the bottom of the screen that you can type along with a QR code that'll take you on over to the Ecoflow store page where you can check out the Delta 2 Max. Thanks for watching. If you learned something today, don't forget to give me that thumbs up below. And if you're not a subscriber already, you know what to do. That's it for now. Till next time.
Odin commands you to like and subscribe, and clean my litter box. RV Golf Guy, Brian Blue, Bruce Johnson, Jason Sirocco, Steve Eisen.